Good evening and welcome to this debate between the two candidates running for Ojai Mayor. I'm David Marin, a member of the League of Women Voters of Ventura County, and tonight we'll hear from these two candidates. We'll have opening statements from each, followed by responses to the questions many of you submitted on the website when you registered, and then closing remarks. Before we begin, though, it is my pleasure to introduce the President of the League of Women Voters Ventura County, Betsy Patterson.
Good evening. I am happy to welcome you all on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Ventura County. 100 years ago, the 19th Amendment was ratified, giving women across the nation the right to vote. We hold the right to vote precious since not all people were given that right in the original Constitution. And for 100 years, the League of Women Voters has been dedicated to encouraging civic engagement and informing voters about the candidates and the issues. From its beginnings and continuing today, the League is a nonpartisan political organization. We do not support or oppose any candidate or political party. Each of us has a voice in our government, but only if we use our vote. To be informed voters, we must ask questions of the candidates and understand the pros and cons of each ballot proposition before we cast our vote. This is your opportunity as voters to learn about the candidates and where they stand on issues important to you. Thank you for joining us tonight. We hope you have many of your questions answered by the candidates, and be sure to make a plan to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. And with that, we will begin our forum. Our first candidate to speak will be Bill Wyrick. We randomly drew numbers earlier. Bill, when you're ready, you have 1.5 minutes.
Well, first, of course, the service that the League provides is so valuable, and I so much appreciate it. Once upon a time, Ojai was not such a rare example of small-town character as it is today. In the early 20th century, towns much more akin to Ojai were scattered around Southern California. The onslaught of sprawl and car-centric development obliterated the very identity of many of these small towns, along with both their agrarian and natural environments around them. I know this as a third-generation native Southern Californian, made aware of this early in life by my grandparents, who inspired me to study this history. The combination of inspiration, deliberate choices, and activism separated Ojai from these destructive forces and created the town we cherish today. Choices inspired by the land itself, the indigenous cultures, the City Beautiful movement, and other progressive philosophies led to the reinventing of Ojai a century ago we celebrate and remember with Ojai Day. One of my earliest involvements was blocking freeways, bulldozing through central San Gabriel town valleys in terms of political activism at the same time that Ojai was standing up to forces trying to run freeways right through up the river and down through downtown Ojai. I'm asking for your vote to apply the principles I've learned to continue as mayor to continue this work, especially as we embark on updating our general plan, the Constitution for land use and public policy going forward.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Betsy Stixx. Betsy, I'll let you unmute and then begin.
Good evening. I'm Betsy Stixx and I love Ojai. It's one of the greatest places to live on the planet. I'm running for mayor because I'm grateful to live here and want to protect our town's right to simply be itself. Over the past several years, Ojai has changed significantly. Tourism has increased with both benefits and costs. Gentrification has accelerated, causing a dwindling supply of affordable housing. Our water reserves have decreased. Climate change has increased fire risk. We are living through a pandemic, and social justice is at the forefront of our minds. If elected mayor, I will work hard with you to address these challenges. While I have not held public office, I have spent decades organizing groups of people for a common purpose. I have founded and run human development, community service, and honors programs, worked in school administration, and coached competitive teams. I know how to get people involved and get results. My priorities include increasing our water levels in the valley, improving fire safety, protecting the environment, increasing housing opportunities for those of modest means, ending Ojai residents paying the highest amount per capita for police services in the entire county, fostering a robust local business community, and of course, keeping us safe during COVID and in the future. I have detailed plans to address these issues on my website, ojaibetsy.com. I love Ojai, and I want to give back. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll start with you, Betsy, on the first question. We have several regarding water. First ones, I'll wrap them together, but we continue to see the water level in Lake Casitas go down. As mayor, what will you do to increase Ojai's water level? And how do you propose to fill Lake Casitas or make sure that that is a safe reservoir for the city?
Ojai is blessed with a water supply from the mountains and from the aquifer beneath us. I want future generations to be able to live here and enjoy the valley just as we do. I spoke with Paul Jenkins, Ventura campaign coordinator of the Surfrider Foundation and founder of the Matilaha Coalition. He gave me some sound advice about how we can promote sustainability here in the Ventura River watershed. We all must continue working together to use this precious resource wisely, share it, and not waste it. We also need to continually work to replenish it. As mayor, I will keep water at the top of the agenda for our town. I will advocate to accelerate efforts to slow, capture, and sink rainwater, thereby raising water levels in the valley. Expand on successful conservation efforts by continuing to encourage installation of more water-saving plumbing fixtures. Strongly encourage and fund more landscape irrigation with gray water diverted from residential laundry, sinks, and showers. Restore the natural function of the Ventura River watershed. A fully functioning watershed can give us year-round flows in the Ventura River rather than high water followed by extended dryness. With careful management and conservation, we can restore and maintain water levels in the valley.
Thank you. Bill, same question to you. What will you do to help increase Ojai's water reserves and deal with Lake Casitas?
There are so many facets and aspects to this that I've been studying for years. Let me hit a couple high points. First of all, Ojai is in a position of not being a direct pumper of water. Therefore, we're in a good position to try and help mediate the differences in points of view between the Casitas Municipal Water District and the City of Ventura in the current adjudication lawsuit. We have to find ways of, as Betsy just said, slow, store, and capture. The city, for example, worked very closely promoting the CMWD, the Casitas Municipal Water District, to accelerate their efforts to allow debris removal and better diversion when high water does occur in order to put storage into the river. And we've come off our bottom in terms of storage in Lake Casitas. We've taken steps to improve the aquifer recharge. One example is right behind City Hall, where we're about to embark on a habitat restoration in terms of things like arundo and eucalyptus that waste and transpire tremendous amounts of water. We've been pushing to get the spreading grounds diversion working finally, after years at the head of San Antonio Creek. There are many examples of this that are impossible to go about in just a minute and a half, but it's something that I've been a student of for quite a number of years now.
Thank you. Bill, we'll stay with you and go on to the next question. We learned about this in the previous forum, but short-term rentals are obviously a concern for many in your community. Tell us about your specific policies and views on short-term rentals. Do you agree with the ban, or do you think there should be changes?
Well, from a basic economics point of view, demand and supply, if you divert residential housing into short-term rentals, you are reducing housing supply, which exacerbates our affordable housing problem. It also really cuts the heart out of the community, and we've seen this all around the United States, where study after study has shown that short-term rentals that are simply get out of hand are raise rents and reduce the stakeholding sense of people in the community. Right now, I ran the first time for city council on the platform of stopping the 6-year suspension of enforcement on short-term rentals because it was hollowing out our community. We tried to find a way to regulate it that would not impact the housing supply, could not. Therefore, I cast the deciding vote to enforce the current ordinance which bans short-term rentals. And I've been in support of smart enforcement to do as much as possible in this regard. I think that when you're looking at the character of this community, unless you can find a way to have short-term rentals that does not reduce housing supply, that is something we should stay with and find other ways of accommodating our visitors.
Thank you. And Betsy, same question to you. What is your position about short-term rentals, and do you agree with the ban?
When my family moved here 20 years ago, we could not afford to buy a house on 2 teacher salaries. The situation has gotten worse. As I witnessed many young people returning to Ojai during the pandemic, I realized that they can't afford to rent a place here. If you work in a restaurant, hair salon, or other business in Ojai, or are a single parent, you should be able to live here. Otherwise, we become yet another cute town of second homes for affluent people who live elsewhere. As mayor, I will work to increase long-term home sharing and creation of accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, within existing homes, because this approach is environmentally friendly and provides living spaces for those of modest means faster and at a fraction of the cost of new construction. I want our community to take steps to make long-term home sharing a more positive experience for all involved. Here's how. Partner with state lawmakers and nonprofits to provide incentives for homeowners to increase long-term home sharing. Encourage use of current city ordinances to create accessory dwelling units in existing homes, which would involve making one large home accommodate 2 households. Support present city rules that disallow vacation rentals, and partner with a local nonprofit to create a matchmaking system for homeowners and renters. Initiatives like these and others support our residents of
Thank you, Betsy. Going to have to stop you there. But Betsy, we're going to start the next question with you, and somewhat on the same topic of STRs is housing. And the question is about your thoughts on your plans for affordable housing, any type of housing to help Ojai. And the questioner actually makes it very clear. They would like to know your actual plans, not your vision. So for both candidates, please try to be as concrete as you can regarding your plans for housing in Ojai.
Sure. Well, as I said, I am a big fan of ADUs, accessory dwelling units. And in my own home, for example, about 7 years ago, I remodeled so that I can have a roommate, and I've rented that space out for about 6 or 7 years. And of course, that's helped me pay my mortgage. I've rented it under market. So it's been a great situation for both of us. And I've rented it mostly to young teachers who can't afford to find a place to live here. So I think that's really, really important to maintain our middle class here in Ojai. And therefore, I will push hard to create more ADUs and also to encourage people to be more creative in their living spaces, because we have a lot of resources. We just need to share them. So I feel that initiatives like these and partnering with nonprofits to match homeowners and renters, these will support our residents of moderate means and also help us meet our regional housing needs allocation.
Thank you. Bill, same question to you. What are your specific concrete plans for affordable housing in Ojai? I'm sorry, Bill, we didn't get you unmuted. So give you a moment there, and then we'll
There we go. Okay.
get you started, please.
First of all, my first experience in city government for Ojai was chairing the Building Appeals Board. And I led a thorough change to the way we were handling the amnesty program for unpermitted second units, so that people could much more cost effectively get those permitted and get those on the books in terms of affordable housing supply for our community. I led the effort to reduce fees as much as possible, including those from other agencies. For example, the sanitary district was charging upwards of $20,000 for a sewer connection for an ADU, and I led the fight to get that changed. I also feel it's very important that we enforce our ordinances that say that we need to preserve what we have. I led the effort to change kind of looking the other way when we were not enforcing the ordinance of not allowing development to reduce our existing affordable housing supply. I also think that it's very important that we can make a use of existing tools to partner with other agencies like the Housing Authority in terms of the piece of land that the city owns on the corner of Franklin and Montgomery to see about affordable housing units, and also the Ojai Unified School District in terms of when they are repurposing the Chaparral property, that there be an affordable housing component that, according to new state laws, could be especially beneficial to support teachers and staff in the school.
Thank you, Bill. Going to start the next question with you, Bill. We're going to move on to the topic of climate change and dealing with it. There's been certainly engagement by the people of Ojai regarding the REACH codes and other attempts to look at the future. So dealing with climate change, what is your position regarding the city of Ojai's recommendation to end natural gas supply to new construction for basically an all-electric community? Please share with us your, not just vision, but your thoughts about how we try to deal with global climate change and your support for these recommendations.
Well, first of all, I think it's worth making the point that the city of Ojai has already been engaged in REACH codes. If you define REACH codes as being reaching beyond what the state requires you do in terms of state codes, we already are doing that. And I don't want to get into all the examples. When we're talking about the specifics, I think it's important in terms of REACH codes and the electrification to lead by example. For example, the city needs to, and I think it will be soon, looking at solar and battery backup that also allows peak load management, and also how we can help and deploy that in residences all over the community. When it comes to electrification, we want to make sure about that we do the right thing in terms of promoting without having a problem with affordability. For example, we do not want someone with 100 amp service that needs a permit to replace their hot water heater to also have to upgrade their electric service. That would be counterproductive. But when you're talking about new construction and certain types of adaptations, it makes all the sense in the world. I'll give you another example of why we need to think about the details. If people need to have backup generators for their renewable resources and their renewable sources, we don't want to encourage liquid fuel backup generators when natural gas generators would be less polluting. We need to look at electric transport changes for our city fleet. So both by example and by artful use of the code, we can move in the right direction.
Thank you. Betsy, same question to you. Your thoughts about dealing with climate change and especially some of these REACH codes and policies for 2030, I believe.
Mm-hmm. When I walk into my neighborhood park with its huge oak trees, I can immediately feel the difference that tree coverage makes. It's just so much cooler in the park than at my house around the corner. Planting more water-wise, naturally fire-resistant native trees will diminish heat islands to make our town more livable. As an individual, I ride my bike to get around town because I know that every little choice we make makes a difference for the environment. We all, including the city, need to make responsible decisions to do our part in every way to curb climate change. I've already met with Steve Colomay and Michelle Ellison of the city's climate committee, and I look forward to supporting their committee's efforts to reduce our carbon footprint. Natural gas is a major contributor to climate change. Therefore, I support the committee's recommendation that Ojai join other cities in disallowing natural gas hookups to newly constructed buildings. As mayor, I will work to help Ojai plant more trees to cool our town and offset our carbon footprint, establish policies that transition us away from single-use plastics in our food, product delivery, and waste management, replace retiring city vehicles with electric vehicles, and upgrade city buildings to operate carbon neutral. We all have so much to do in this area, and yet I have great faith in our ability to continue to reduce our carbon footprint.
Thank you. Betsy, we'll stay with you for the next question. Let's start talking about the economy and the recovery from COVID. Many small businesses in particular have been devastated by the COVID and the shutdown. Although you would be mayor, and that's not necessarily a central figure, unlike the other city council, I mean, you still would be the leader in a way of the community. So share with us your ideas, the policies you'll promote to help the community recover from the pandemic.
I love frequenting local businesses, and I love the longtime friendships that I've developed with the people who work in the stores. This is yet another reason why I love Ojai and want to preserve these dear connections. Over the past several months, I've met with local business owners. I'm so impressed with their incredible innovation and resilience during COVID. If elected, I will continue to meet with and listen to them so that I can keep a pulse on their needs and concerns. I will also work with business development experts and organizations in the county and the state to support our local business owners so that they can find the help that they need. I have great trust in the power of a group of committed people working together for the common good.
Thank you. And we'll go to Bill. Bill, same question to you about if you're elected, what's the role you think you can play to help the community recover from the pandemic?
Well, beginning with the fire and then also through the pandemic, one of my positions I serve as a council member is on the Economic Development Collaborative Board. And behind the scenes, I worked with that staff and the president of the EDC to get much more service to local businesses than we've ever had before in the Ojai, both beginning with the fire and now through the pandemic. In terms of all services of all stripes, we've tripled, quadrupled in terms of the referrals and the services that we used to be rare and now are much more common. Also, working with Councilman Blatz, have really championed that we have a proper, mutually constructive relationship with the Chamber of Commerce. Again, in the Ojai way. And so there are specific tasks, including working as an ombudsman for that businesses have in terms of problems with the city or the county. We've been helping with both, and also getting the help that they need. You know, it's an overall challenge. One of those services with the Chamber of Commerce, for example, is to promote broadband expansion in this valley, which we desperately need in order to diversify our local economic base. We need to find ways to promote families with children to be able to combine livelihood and housing in this valley. And that solves so many problems and improves the health of our community.
Thank you, Bill. We're going to stay with you, Bill, to start the next question. Let's step away from policies and learn a little bit more about each of you. If you were elected, what would be your 1 or 2 top priorities, and how would you actually accomplish them? Not just your vision again, but that. And when you talk about yourself, also share with us what you think distinguishes you from your opponent.
That's a lot to answer in 1.5 minutes. First of all, I think it's important to understand that the primary choice that voters are making for mayor is who is going to work with the city manager and the city attorney in order to develop agendas, collaborate with members of the community and colleagues in terms of council meetings and handling and chairing council meetings. So we have an effective deliberative body. That's really the most important goal for the mayor in terms of being effective, transparent, and as community-centric as possible. The process is important. We're overdue for an update of the general plan. One of my major goals that I think is so important is that I bring my long years of experience in public policy development to the renewal and updating of our general plan, some parts of which date back to 1987. We're just kicking that off. Fire and water supply resiliency, overall environmental and economic sustainability. All of these things in the character of our community in general are all based on the Constitution that is embedded in the general plan in guiding land use and public policy going forward. So I think that those 3 things, effective running of council meetings, properly running and updating the general plan, and promoting ways for families to be able to combine livelihood and residency in this valley are very important.
Thank you. Betsy, same question to you. What would be your top 1 or 2 priorities? How would you accomplish them? And what do you think sets you apart from your opponent?
My top priorities are clearly outlined on my website, ojaibetsy.com, and they are water, fire, and affordability. What I'm hearing from local citizens is that they want city leaders to act first and foremost in favor of those who live here. Our town is defined by our middle class. I will work to keep it that way. As mayor, I will listen and act upon what I hear from the majority of the people. For me, this means embracing well-managed tourism while also having a watchful eye on just how much is enough. In fact, the success of local tourism depends on its being carefully managed so Ojai preserves its unique character, which is what draws visitors in the first place. We don't want to kill the goose that lays the golden eggs. I am new to local politics, and this will benefit residents because I have fresh eyes. I am motivated to run because I want to give back. I care about Ojai citizens, and I want to get things done. Bill has been an able member of the City Council. If I'm elected mayor, then he will continue to serve on the City Council, and I look forward to working with him. I am committed to preserving Ojai's appeal to local residents and to resist pressures to turn Ojai into yet another upscale getaway. I will work to keep it that way.
Okay, there we go. Little moderator snafu there.
I was hoping that wasn't my end.
No. So Betsy's next question for you. Traffic is a big concern in the valley, in the city of Ojai. That also includes lane reduction projects. It includes Creek Road. It includes the concern about evacuations during fires. Share with us your philosophy, your view, what type of policies you think should be implemented for traffic control.
Well, overall, my philosophy in solving any problem is to do research, talk to people, observe, get some feedback, run some tests, and then make a good decision that works for the majority of the people. So, for example, in terms of Maricopa Highway, I know that there are going to be tests that will be run to see how it flows. It does seem like 4 lanes is quite a lot. Of course, the tests, the proof is in the pudding. So once the tests have been finished, we can talk to people at the hospital, all the doctors and nurses and workers who are along the right side, on the left side, talk to people at the high school to see what makes the most sense.
Thank you. Bill, same question to you. What is your policies, your vision for improving traffic control in the city?
You know, we have the highest proportion of commuters and service people coming in and out of the valley. And it's really a symptom. A lot of the traffic that most people ascribe completely to tourism, although that's part of it, you know, our visitors coming in, but it's also the number of people that can't live here, that work here, or the people that can't live here that service our community. So, you know, our combination of finding ways for livelihood and residency to go together, providing more affordable housing, is actually also a traffic matter. I think we also need to look at alternatives to cars. That's what we're doing with the overall ATP grant, which Maricopa Highway is only a part. It's important to study that very carefully, understand its history. Besides really pushing for the demonstration project grant that we successfully got, because we can learn by doing and get more data, I also made sure that we collect data in the front end so we have good comparatives between before and after. I know it may be flawed because school is not in session, but you know, you take what you can get. In terms of Creek Road, we took all the initiatives we could, including, people might wonder why the stop signs were put in. That was specifically to try to change the algorithms that Google was using without the stop signs to, you know, tell people that that was the preferred way into town, which was a big part of the problem with visitation. So you need to act smart, you know, think smart, and take smart action.
Thank you, Bill. Bill, we're going to start with you on the next question. This will be for both of you under lead policy, but it's regarding the seat. If you are elected mayor, then there'll be an open seat on the city council to fill your unexpired term. What do you think is the proper way that that seat should be filled? Do you think it should be set to go to a woman?
Well, first of all, I've already made several statements to the effect that my preference is for a qualified woman. I was you know, sorry to see in the last round of city council elections that we didn't have more women running. I think it's overdue, and I would definitely support a qualified woman to serve the unexpired term if I am elected mayor. Absolutely. In terms of the method of doing it, the choices are running a special election. It can cost $30,000 plus and take a lot of time. Or we could have a fair, open, and transparent process of considering candidates and then the council would make a majority decision. It's up to the council ultimately, but I think given our financial situation where our reserves we're at 1/3 of where we were, although we think we're bottoming out, that it makes more sense for, in my point of view, for a qualified woman to be appointed to serve the unexpired term and to do that by appointment because the finances of a special election are just exorbitant.
Thank you. And Betsy, same question to you as far as what do you think is the proper way to fill a term that is not yet expired? And do you think it should be designated for a woman?
Well, of course, I think it goes to the person who is the most qualified. That said, I'm a big advocate for gender balance, and I think it makes sense that there's a balance on the council. Of course, Bill's term goes to 2022. So if I'm elected, I will take the mayor's seat, and then we'll all be able to work together. So there will not have to be any kind of election or decision. $30,000 for our budget is quite a lot of money for a special election. I do think that people deserve to select whom they want to have on the council. Of course, if the 4 men and 1 woman are able to come up with a great decision, a great choice, that would be a much less expensive option.
Thank you. Betsy, I'm going to start the next question with you. As far as looking at the city's finances, you've touched on it as well as your opponent. I mean, what do you think are the ways to promote fiscal stability, to generate more revenue for the city, to ensure transparency?
Mm-hmm. One sec. May I start?
Yes, I'm sorry, when you're ready.
Okay. Well, I've looked into the funding of the police, and while I do not support defunding the police, we are overpaying for police services. The Ventura County Sheriff's Department charges the city of Ojai nearly $9,000 a day to police our 4 square mile town. This amounts to approximately 1/3 of our town's budget expense. We pay more per capita for police services than anywhere else in the county. It's time for us to take a sober look at our contract with the Sheriff's Department and change it for the better. As mayor, I will advocate that the council do the following: renegotiate the contract with the Ventura County Sheriff's Department to right-size services to a level that reflects our actual need. Promote adequate training for the wide array of social services that the policy has been asked to provide. I would advocate for fundamental policy change and resource allocation to improve our effectiveness at addressing nonviolent crimes related to substance abuse, homelessness, and mental illness. A partnership with the County of Ventura Behavioral Health and other regional agencies will provide experts more suitably trained to work with those vulnerable members of our community, as well as support and train our police officers. I know that the council is already looking at this as a giant part of our budget, and it's in renegotiation now or discussion.
Thank you, Betsy. Gonna have to stop you there. Bill, same question to you as far as looking at the city's finances. What will you do to help increase revenue? What will you do as far as transparency and stability?
Well, first of all, I want to let everyone know that I'm proud to say that this and previous councils have built a reserve going into this pandemic that allowed us to continue a level of services without doing a lot of, extra financing or intra-fund borrowings. It really provided a lot of stability for the city of Ojai. One of the ongoing jokes when new staff members join the city of Ojai is they want to look at the debt schedule, and we don't have any. And that's a good thing. As far as the police budgets, because I really thank Betsy for joining me in this effort. I started studying this years ago. I'm the one that brought this to the attention of the council initially. I'm the one that found the contracts that the sheriff's department, quote unquote, could not find. The contracts are, and I'm going to read a first sentence of a letter that was part of a communication to the sheriff in July of this year that I wrote. How can elected officials responsible for the stewardship of their constituents' tax dollars explain how millions of dollars annual are being spent on law enforcement services with a contract not meaningfully updated since anyone younger than the age of 40 was even born? This needs to be looked at very carefully, but we also need to look at the fact, and I wish I had more time to explain it, the key policy impediment on the issue is the county policy of minimum service that is not appropriate for our small city, and the way that the county is pricing those services and not allowing fractional adjustments for the smallest jurisdiction in the county.
Bill, I am going to start the next question with you, candidates. This will be our last question of the evening. Let's talk a little bit about how some of that revenue flows into the city. And a lot of that is based on tourism, hotel tax income, that type of thing. So Bill, share with us your philosophy about the city's role in working with tourism and other groups to promote events. Where do you think the balance is for the city to, and I can think of the tennis tournament, other things, the music festival. What do you think is the proper role?
Well, first of all, I've always, thought of a distinction between tourism, which is more of a just kind of look and see thing, and visitation, which is people participating in our culture. I think that it's important to promote visitation for things like music festival, the studio arts tour, tennis festival. These are great traditions in our community, and they're not really the same as just showing up for the day. They're really part of people that are many times year after year almost consider themselves extended residents in terms of visitation to our community. I think that's the kind of effort that we want in terms of how we accommodate that properly. That was one of the motivations for our doing away with the OTID, which was just sort of a general promotion of coming here. And now we have the citizens 2/3 supported increasing the transit occupancy tax to help us provide infrastructure support for the kind of visitation that we want. I think it's important that we, for example, look at ways of helping with parking for the Ojai Arts Center, in a ways that is being squeezed out by other uses. There's just a lot of ways of looking at this without, again, as Betsy said, killing the golden goose, because many of our local residents that are entrepreneurs with families are starting businesses, and we wouldn't want to discriminate them because they're earning the ability to live and work here by our visitation.
Thank you, Bill. And we will wrap up this question with Betsy. So Betsy, share with us your philosophy, your views about integrating tourism with the city. What's the proper role?
Well, I'm a communicator. I've been teaching since I was 14 years old. So my solution always is to communicate, to reach out and find out what people need. So in the last several months, as I mentioned, I've spoken to many, many Ojai business owners. And I think that is the solution, finding out what they need, talking to to all the different festivals, which I love and attend, the Writers Conference, there's Ojai Day, everything that goes on at the Art Center, and just create a network of people talking to find out what the needs are and who can meet those needs. So definitely partnering with nonprofits and other organizations who can provide the source and the funds for these organizations as well as individuals. I've dedicated my life to service, and I understand that civil discourse is crucial. And I'm excited by the prospect of meeting with people and presiding over effective council meetings and being accessible to my constituents. And I think that my own authenticity and transparency are what can help us move forward. And I really feel that we are at this place in history in Ojai where we have this opportunity to all work together for a common good. And I will do so from a place of balance, peace,
Thank you, Betsy.
and open-mindedness. And
Thank you. Candidates, we're going to go ahead and begin our closing statements. We're going to go in the reverse order. Betsy, you'll be first for the closing statement. You have 1.5 minutes when you're ready.
Okay. In 2018, Mr. Wyrick was elected to the Ojai City Council for a 4-year term that ends in 2022. If I'm elected mayor, he will finish his 4-year term and we will avoid the possibility of expending roughly $30,000 to conduct a special election to fill his vacated seat. As mayor for the past 4 years, Johnny Johnston has worked hard for our town. We owe him much gratitude. The decision in this election comes down to who is going to run the city council meetings and whether Ojai voters trust me more to do that with their best interests at heart. I am committed to listening to all voices when facing important decisions. Transparency will be the rule in all of my dealings at City Hall. If elected, I will conduct council meetings in a manner that invites public participation and civility. We all know that this is a difficult time in history. The pandemic, social justice, economic uncertainty, decreasing water levels, and the fire risk are challenges that all of us are facing. I look forward to partnering with Ojai voters to work together on these issues. To learn more about my vision for Ojai, go to ojaibetsy.com. Please vote for me when you complete your ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Bill Wyrick.
You know, it's important to really understand that getting things done requires pairing a vision of where we want to go with knowledge of the mechanics of how to get us there. This includes working with colleagues on the council, collaborating with the city attorney and the city manager, making sure proper due diligence is accomplished. When the council is making policy decisions, we have to sweat the details in order to avoid unintended negative consequences. This is especially important for the mayor, whose primary responsibility, distinct from other council members, is to prepare agendas, inclusively, effectively, and efficiently chair council meetings. This includes understanding how other agencies work. Important are both agencies where council members directly serve as members of other governing boards and other agencies with whom we share vital interests like the Casitas Municipal Water District. My long record of public service in many different capacities, my 6 years of council experience, and my last 4 years of working closely with the current mayor to improve the quality of our deliberations prepares me to serve this community well as the next elected mayor. We have made great strides in improving staff performance and accountability along with representing our vital interests with our other agencies. I believe I have the sensibilities and the skill set to continue these improvements as mayor. I'm asking for your vote as the next elected mayor, allowing me and honoring me with the opportunity to bring my combination and vision and long experience to the position. And repeat again, we won't have to spend $30,000 to appoint a replacement.
Okay, thank you both candidates. Nice job tonight for both of you answering so many questions. I'd like to take a moment also to thank our volunteers at the League, Betsy Patterson, you met earlier, the president, Pat Essick, the head of voter services, Cheryl, Maddie, and Elizabeth, who helped out tonight. Before we wrap up, I want to just take a moment to share a little presentation from the League that talks about your vote and the best way to plan your vote. As a reminder, every registered voter in California will be mailed a mail-in ballot. You can return that. If you do, make sure you sign the outer envelope before you return it. You can return it through the Postal Service or drop it off at a ballot box or one of the voting centers. And if you wish to vote in person, you can go to one of the voting centers. Keep in mind, they're not the old polling places that you may be used to, but you can go to any voting center in the county. Ballots should be in most people's hands this week. If you have not received a ballot by October 16th, please contact the Elections Division to get one. The League encourages you to return that ballot in the mail by October 20th. That'll ensure that it's collected by the post office and delivered to the Elections Department by election night and can be counted in the first wave of counting. Keep in mind that any ballot, as long as it's postmarked by November 3rd, well, I'm sorry, they're on our screen, but as long as it's available, as long as it's postmarked by November 13th, it will be counted as long as it's received within 17 days after the election. There's a couple of resources we like to point out. where'smyballot.sos.ca.gov has great information, and it's a way for you to track your ballot so you know, is it at the Postal Service? Has it been received by the Elections Department? votersedge.org has great information about candidates running in your local area. Just put in your address. It'll tell you all the candidates, show information, including the ballot propositions. Also, the League's website, lwvventuracounty.org. Same place that you went to register for this forum tonight, you can go there and watch the video tomorrow. And also what you can do on that website is look at any of our other forums as well. So with that, once again, thank you to our two candidates. Remind you to vote November 3rd. If you do send in a mail-in ballot, make sure you sign the outside envelope. I'm David Marin with the League of Women Voters. Thank you and good evening.
Good night.